You thought you were prepared. You thought you knew this story. But what's coming in The Chosen Season 6 will hit deeper than anything we've seen before. New behind-the-scenes footage has emerged, and it's not just dramatic, it's devastating. This isn't just another TV moment. This is the moment that breaks history. And your heart. What you're about to hear isn't just about filming, it's about pain, love, betrayal, and the unbearable silence that comes when the Savior breathes his last. This is not for the faint of heart. This is the crucifixion as The Chosen has never shown it before. Season 6 doesn't crash into the crucifixion, it creeps toward it, step by painful step. Every frame, every whispered line is loaded with quiet dread. The creators aren't rushing the story, they're building a storm you can feel before you even see it. For 5 seasons, we've watched Jesus heal, teach, love, and gather those who would follow him. But in Season 6, that light starts to flicker. Miracles turn into murmurs. Crowds grow thinner. Smiles fade. And in their place, betrayal begins to take root. It starts with the silence. On set, cast and crew have described a heaviness during filming that no one could shake. Scenes that were once full of laughter and chatter now begin with stillness, because everyone knows what's coming. And now, so do we. One of the first major reveals is the scourging, the moment where Jesus is no longer simply a teacher or healer, he becomes the sacrifice. The leaked footage doesn't show the whole thing, just fragments, but it's enough to wreck you. Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus, appears gaunt, weakened, with streaks of blood clinging to his skin like it belongs there. His purple robe isn't just a costume, it's torn, soaked in red, and hanging from his shoulders like a burden. And this isn't makeup that looks like pain. This is pain that feels real. It sticks to him. You can't unsee it. People who were there during filming said the moment the scene began, a chilling silence fell across the entire set. There was no joking, no direction being shouted, just stillness, because what they were about to film was sacred, and it felt like everyone knew they were standing on holy ground. And yet, this isn't the crucifixion. Not yet. This is the build-up, the preparation, the unraveling, the beginning of the end. And somehow, that's what makes it worse, because we know what comes next, and we're powerless to stop it. Just like the disciples, fans have already started posting reactions online. Some said they had to pause, cry, walk away. Others said the images left them in stunned silence. And the most terrifying part? We've only seen slivers, the surface, the tip of the heartbreak. The camera isn't just showing us violence, it's showing us the soul of this moment, the betrayal that cuts deeper than the whip, the loneliness that wraps tighter than any crown of thorns. And this time, The Chosen isn't softening anything. They're not looking away, and neither can we. In one leaked moment, we see Jesus draped in the purple robe, placed there as mockery by Roman soldiers. His face is bruised, his body trembling, and still, he stands. Barely. Blood mixes with dust on his skin. His eyes, those eyes we've followed through 5 seasons, are hollow, tired, but filled with something even deeper than pain. Love. A love that refuses to stop, even when every bone is breaking under its weight. There's a field of crosses in the background. Real crosses, real wind, real cold. No sound stages, no green screens, just the brutal reality of what crucifixion looked like. And while Jonathan hasn't yet been shown on one of those crosses in the footage we've seen, reports confirm that dozens of crucifixion scenes have already been filmed. Not 1 or 2, dozens. Some background actors said they were asked to carry full-sized crosses across a barren, freezing field, their breath visible in the morning air, their shoulders bruised from the weight. And in all of this, one thing becomes clear. This season isn't here to entertain us. It's here to wreck us. Because this isn't just about Jesus. It's about the ones who love him and how they fall apart too. We see Peter already distancing himself in one scene, a dark hood pulled low over his face, hidden, watching. The denial is coming. And not just his. Every disciple is about to face their own breaking point. And for the first time, their loyalty isn't enough to stop what's coming. The betrayal has begun. The weight is falling, and this is only the beginning. Judas. The name alone feels like a warning. And in The Chosen Season 6, his story isn't just a footnote, it's a ticking time bomb. From the very first scene he appears in, something feels off, like a man who's already made the decision but hasn't fully faced it yet. The creators aren't turning him into a villain. They're turning him into something more heartbreaking, a broken soul, crushed under the weight of his own choices. On set, people who watch the filming say Judas looked hollow, pale, almost lost inside his own body. His eyes never stopped moving, as if trying to escape his own mind. And in the solo scenes he films, quiet, reflective moments. There's no dramatic music, no angry outburst, just silence, regret. Breathing that sounds too heavy for one man to carry. It's like watching someone drown in slow motion. And it's that slow collapse that makes it so painful. Because we've seen Judas love Jesus, we've seen him hesitate, we've seen him struggle. This betrayal isn't born out of hatred, it's born out of confusion, fear, and a twisted hope that maybe he can force something to happen. Something political, something practical. But what actually unfolds is betrayal on a scale he can't reverse. When that kiss happens, yes, the kiss, it will destroy us. Because by the time Judas steps into the garden, it won't feel like a scene. It'll feel like a funeral, the death of trust, the death of friendship, the moment when love is betrayed with something that should have meant safety, a kiss. And it's not just Judas falling apart. Peter is unraveling too. In the newest behind-the-scenes updates, we see the early moments of his downfall beginning. There's a leaked shot where he stands in the crowd, away from the others, face nearly hidden. Not brave, not bold, just terrified. Fans believe this scene leads straight into his denial. And it's the way The Chosen is staging it that breaks your heart. Peter isn't defiant. He's ashamed. He's silent. When the words finally come out, "I don't know him," it's not shouted. It's whispered. It's mumbled, like even he can't believe he's saying it. And then, the rooster. That haunting, echoing sound that marks the exact moment his soul fractures. And when he hears it, that's the end of Peter's strength. The most loyal disciple, the one who swore he would die for Jesus, crumbles in the shadows alone. Reports from the set say this scene was so heavy that even background actors had to leave. One said they couldn't stop crying, not because of the dialogue, but because of the silence between the lines. That's the genius of this season. It's not the screaming, it's the silence. That's what breaks you. And then, Gethsemane. A single word that slipped through a production note, but it sent shockwaves through the fan base. Because if they're showing the garden, they're showing the agony. This isn't a moment of peace. This is the moment where Jesus falls, not from weakness, but from the unbearable weight of what's about to happen. This is the prayer that shakes the heavens. Let this cup pass from me. This is where the sweat turns to blood, where he cries alone, knowing what's ahead, and still choosing to walk into it. Jonathan Rumi has reportedly been preparing for this scene for months, not just physically, but emotionally. And if the scourging footage is any hint of what he's capable of delivering, Gethsemane is going to destroy us. Because here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud, Jesus wasn't just physically tortured. He was emotionally abandoned. And that hurts even more. In that garden, his friends sleep. Judas approaches. Peter prepares to run. And Jesus prays through it all, alone. This is where the heartbreak turns into something bigger. Because from this point on, the story stops being about miracles and starts being about mourning, about a man who loved completely and was still left to suffer. And then, the arrest. That brutal, chaotic moment where the soldiers arrive, swords drawn, chaos rising, and Jesus steps forward, not to run, but to give himself up. Not because he's weak, but because he chooses this. One report said the filming of this scene felt more like a documentary than a show. So raw, so real, like the air itself had changed. The crew asked for total silence, no background noise, no movements. Because everyone knew what they were watching wasn't just fiction, it was sacred. And that's the weight this season is carrying. Every moment, every movement, every breath. It's not just storytelling, it's grief wrapped in devotion. We've only just reached the arrest, the trial, the beatings, the cross. They're all still ahead. But even now, the emotional damage is already landing. Fans are bracing themselves because they know what's coming next won't just move them. It will wreck them. The storm has arrived, and the worst is still ahead. By the time Jesus is taken into custody, everything in The Chosen Season 6 shifts. The colors dim, the voices lower, the pace slows to a crawl, because now we're not witnessing miracles, we're witnessing injustice. And it's not loud. It's eerily quiet, like the world is holding its breath while heaven weeps. The trial of Jesus isn't one event, it's a series of humiliations stitched together by lies. First, he's dragged before the religious leaders, then before the Roman governor, then Herod, back to Pilate. Each scene designed to strip him not just of dignity, but of identity. And the way The Chosen is filming it, you feel every insult, every slap, every moment he's left standing alone while others decide his fate. We've heard from sources close to production that these trial scenes were some of the hardest to shoot, not because of complexity, but because of emotional toll. Cast and crew reportedly fell silent during takes, not out of instruction, but because no one could speak. It was as if everyone realized what they were recreating wasn't just part of a show, it was the darkest day in human history being relived in real time. One behind-the-scenes note revealed that the actors playing the priests were instructed to hold nothing back. The shouting, the spitting, the mockery. It had to feel real. And apparently it did. So real that Jonathan Roumie, already bloodied from the scourging scene, had to take breaks between takes just to breathe. Not because of exhaustion, but because of the spiritual and emotional weight bearing down on him. The trial before Pilate is where the dread truly sets in. Pilate doesn't want to condemn him. That much is clear. But politics wins over truth, and The Chosen leans into that tension. The weight of a system so corrupt it kills the innocent to keep the powerful in power. Pilate washes his hands, but we feel the guilt he tries to rinse away, because water can't clean this. One of the most haunting reports from set says that during this scene there was a moment when the camera lingered on Jesus, not speaking, not moving, just staring back at Pilate. His eyes swollen, his face covered in blood and spit, but somehow still calm. That stare, one crew member said, was more powerful than any line of dialogue, because it wasn't anger, it wasn't fear, it was love, even here, even now. And then comes the crowd. The same people who shouted Hosanna days earlier now scream, "Crucify him." The change is sudden, brutal, and heartbreaking. And The Chosen doesn't soften the blow. They show it all, the frenzy, the confusion, the way mob mentality drowns out reason. And in the middle of it, Jesus stands silent, still choosing, still surrendering. Reports say that extras were so overwhelmed during these scenes that several broke down off camera. One person said, "It didn't feel like acting. It felt like we were betraying someone we loved." That's the power of this show. It doesn't just show you a betrayal, it makes you feel like you're part of it. And through all of this, the disciples are nowhere to be found, scattered, hiding, watching from shadows. Peter is still drowning in guilt. John is trying to stay close without being seen. And Judas is gone. We haven't even seen Judas's final scene yet, but insiders say it's one of the most emotionally devastating moments The Chosen has ever filmed. Alone in a field, a rope in hand, no redemption, just silence. We're not there yet, but it's coming. And the weight of it already hangs over every scene. As the trial ends, we move into the next chapter, the cross. But before Jesus is lifted up, he's handed over to be scourged, officially. The previous footage wasn't the full scene, that was just the moment before. The official scourging, according to reports, is so raw that cast members asked for extra counselors on set. Yes, real emotional support. Because what they were watching didn't feel like acting. It felt like witnessing someone being broken in front of them. Jonathan Roumie has spoken briefly about this part of filming. He said it took more out of him than anything he's ever done. That it didn't feel like playing a role. It felt like carrying a cross. And the detail is brutal. The makeup team reportedly spent hours layering torn flesh, blood, and dirt across his back and shoulders. Not just for shock value, but to show us what Scripture describes, a body so beaten it was barely recognizable as human. And yet, even here, Jesus doesn't fight back. He doesn't resist. He endures. One cast member said that the hardest part wasn't the violence, it was the love in his eyes while it was happening. That's the tension season 6 captures so perfectly. The pain is unbearable. But the love is even harder to process, because this isn't punishment. It's a gift. And that's what makes it hurt so much. As we approach Golgotha, the field of crosses comes back into focus. Dozens of them. Some already occupied, some waiting. And fans have noticed there's no music, no dramatic swell, just wind, dust, and silence. Like the world itself is mourning. We haven't seen Jesus on the cross yet. But background actors have confirmed that the scene is being filmed in total secrecy. No leaks, no photos, no previews. And that silence, it's deafening because we know it's coming. We just don't know if we're ready. What The Chosen is doing in season 6 isn't just storytelling. It's a reckoning, a confrontation with the deepest pain and the highest love. And the trial, as horrifying as it is only the doorway. What waits beyond it will shatter us. And we haven't even heard the hammer fall yet. The road to Golgotha isn't just a path of pain, it's a slow, suffocating descent into the deepest grief imaginable. In The Chosen season 6, this moment, this sacred and unspeakable moment, is being treated with a reverence we rarely see in television. The crucifixion isn't just a plot point, it's the point. And The Chosen is not rushing it. It's dragging us through every brutal, heart-tearing step so that when Jesus finally reaches the top of that hill, we feel like we've carried the cross too. Leaked reports confirm what fans have feared. The Chosen has gone all in. A full crucifixion hill. Built, not digitally created. Wind-beaten, barren, with crosses scattered like skeletons of lost men. One extra said the location didn't feel like a film set. It felt like a graveyard. Not because of what was said, but because of the silence that filled the air between takes. And now, we begin the climb. Jesus, already torn apart from the scourging, is forced to carry the cross through the streets. No music, no crowd cheering, only the sound of wood dragging against stone, his feet stumbling, his breath shallow, his body shaking. According to reports, Jonathan Rumi collapsed for real during filming. The fall wasn't scripted, but the director didn't call cut, because what was happening wasn't acting. It was immersion. And the moment they captured wasn't clean. It was raw, messy, honest. And that's exactly how this story must be told. The crowd during this sequence is split. Some are shouting, some are weeping, most are just watching, faces frozen in horror. And it's impossible not to see ourselves in them. How many times have we stood silent while injustice passed before our eyes? That's what The Chosen wants us to ask. Not just, what happened? But, where would I have stood? The moment Jesus reaches the hill, the atmosphere shifts again. Now, it's not about the walk, it's about the execution. And the camera reportedly doesn't look away. Not from the nails, not from the blood, not from the moment his hands are stretched out and hammered down. One crew member described the filming of this scene as the hardest thing I've ever witnessed. Another said, you could hear people sobbing, even off camera. And it wasn't because of the violence, it was because of the silence that followed it. No screams, no outbursts, just the haunting stillness of a man giving himself up. But what makes this scene even more devastating isn't just Jesus' suffering. It's who's watching. Mary, his mother. Her eyes locked on her son, unable to move, unable to look away. The show doesn't give her long speeches. It doesn't need to. Her silence says everything. The trembling hands, the tears that fall without wiping, the way her entire body leans forward as if trying to will herself closer. This is the pain of a mother losing her child in the most brutal way imaginable, and the camera stays with her. Reports say the actress portraying Mary didn't speak between takes. She didn't need to get into character, because when the cameras rolled, the tears that came were real. Everyone on set felt it. The heartbreak wasn't fictional, it was collective. And then there's John, the disciple who stayed, the only one, his eyes scanning the horizon not in panic, but in helplessness. He's trying to be strong, trying to stand firm, but you can see the collapse building inside him. One whisper from Jesus, and John breaks. Behold your mother. 3 words that carry a lifetime of meaning, not just a command, a passing of responsibility, a final act of love. But even here, even now, the chosen refuses to let us escape the emotion. There's no cutting to a distant shot, no soft focus. We stay right there, face to face with agony. And that's when it happens. The moment of silence. No dialogue, no movement. Just the sound of wind brushing across the hill as Jesus lifts his eyes. Not in anger, not in fear, but in surrender. The words come out ragged, forced through bloodied lips. My God, why have you forsaken me? And in that moment, everything shatters. You don't need to be religious to feel it. You just need to be human. Because the look in his eyes isn't just physical pain, it's spiritual abandonment. The feeling of being completely alone. And yet, he stays. He stays on the cross. He stays in the suffering. He stays in the silence. And that's what The Chosen is showing us. This isn't a story of a man who couldn't escape. It's the story of a man who could and chose not to. The sky reportedly darkens in this scene, not with effects, but with real cloud cover that happened during filming. One director reportedly whispered, "We couldn't have planned this," because the atmosphere turned against them. And somehow, it made the moment perfect. There's also the thief, the one on his side, gasping for breath, breaking with each word. "Remember me," he pleads. And Jesus, with what strength he has left, turns to him and promises, "Today you will be with me in paradise." This single exchange, just seconds long, is already being called one of the most emotional moments in the series, because it doesn't just show mercy, it shows timing. The last moment of a life, rescued. And that one line, said on a cross to a criminal, has left audiences in early screenings completely undone. Then, the final breath. The phrase that appeared in a chilling production note. He gave up his spirit. That's how it ends. There's no scream, no dramatic gasp, just a release, like a light going out. And when it happens, the screen reportedly fades to black. Not with music, not with credits, but with silence. Pure, inescapable silence. And in that silence, the weight of everything hits. The betrayal, the beating, the abandonment, the love. All of it crushed into one final second that changes everything. But the story isn't over, and The Chosen knows that, which is why the pain doesn't feel like the end. It feels like the beginning of something bigger. When the screen fades to black after Jesus breathes his last, The Chosen doesn't rush to the next scene. It lingers. It forces us to sit in the silence. And it's in that silence where the real impact of Season 6 begins to unfold. Not in what we see, but in what we feel. Because for the first time, we're not just watching a show about Jesus. We're grieving him. This is where the story slows to its quietest, and somehow most painful pace. The cross is still there. His body hangs, lifeless, while the world begins to process what has just happened. The sky has darkened, the earth has shifted, and the curtain in the temple ripped in two. The Chosen reportedly films this aftermath not with chaos, but with stillness. Because death doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it comes like a whisper that steals the breath from a room. The reactions from the disciples are not dramatized, they're broken, shattered. Matthew, the once curious outsider who became one of the most faithful, reportedly has a scene that will devastate viewers. Wordlessly walking through the dust, his hands shaking, whispering to himself. It's not confusion, it's realization. The man who pulled him out of the world just left it. And Matthew doesn't know who he is anymore. And then there's Mary, the mother. Her son's body is taken down from the cross, and she holds him, not in a poetic, posed image, but in a raw, trembling embrace. This scene has been described by crew members as nearly impossible to shoot. One person said that no one spoke on set, Not out of professionalism, but because the weight in the air was too real. The actress portraying Mary wasn't reading lines. She was living grief. And it shows. John stays close, always faithful, always trying to hold everyone together. But even he falters. The disciples aren't bold now. They're not preaching. They're hiding, scattered like ashes in the wind. And the chosen leans into that fear. They don't give us a polished portrait of early church heroes. They give us broken men and women who feel like they've just lost everything. Even the background characters reflect the weight. Roman soldiers walk away from the crucifixion site, no longer triumphant, but subdued. One reportedly pauses and looks back, not in guilt, but in confusion, as if something holy just happened and they missed it. That's how deeply this show threads subtle emotion through every moment. Nothing is wasted. No glance, no breath, no silence. And Judas. His story doesn't get a redemptive arc because it can't. Reports say the chosen dedicates quiet time to his final moments, not for shock, but for sorrow. Alone. Hollow, irredeemably lost. It's not about punishment. It's about the unbearable weight of betraying someone who loved you anyway. Judas's end is treated with sadness, not spectacle, and it adds to the heavy silence of this final stretch. The burial is quiet, reverent. Jesus' body, wrapped in linen and placed in the tomb, feels like the final nail in hope itself. And the chosen doesn't underplay that. There's no music swell, no soft fade, just stone scraping against stone as the tomb is sealed. One crew member reportedly said it was the hardest scene to shoot, not because of logistics, but because of how final it felt. But here's where the brilliance of The Chosen truly shines. It knows this isn't the end. The final moments of Season 6 don't offer resurrection. Not yet. They offer something more terrifying and, strangely, more human. Waiting. The disciples are left in darkness, hiding, doubting, regretting. Not because they don't believe in Jesus anymore, but because they don't know what to believe. And that uncertainty, that aching, soul-deep sorrow, that's where The Chosen leaves us. In the in-between, no fanfare, no Easter sunrise, just people trying to breathe again after the world ended. Sources say that the final shot of Season 6 is one of the most haunting the show has ever filmed. Not a cross, not a tomb, but a simple, dimly lit room with a few disciples huddled together, eyes swollen from crying, too afraid to speak. And then, the faintest sound outside. Not a voice, not footsteps, just something. It ends there, on the edge of a miracle we're not ready for. Because Season 6 isn't about the resurrection. It's about the crucifixion, the grief, the weight of love carried to its most violent conclusion. And it's about how we survive that. What The Chosen has done with this season is something most shows never dare to try. It has made us feel every step of death without promise of comfort. It has forced us to sit in the suffering, to weep with Mary, to hide with Peter, to mourn with Matthew. And in doing so, it has done something even greater. It has made us long for resurrection. And that longing, that's the point. Because when the stone finally rolls away, it won't just feel like hope. It'll feel like oxygen after drowning. So we wait. Heavy-hearted, tear-streaked, grieving a man who was more than a man. Season 6 of The Chosen has broken us. And that's exactly what it was meant to do.